What is up, everybody? It's your boy Jermaine, Event Main on MMA, and today, ladies and gents, we are checking out a video from the channel GeeKay. They got some pretty good videos over at the channel GeeKay. So today we are checking out a video about a fighter that I can't stand, Michael Chandler. All right, the title of this video is Why Dustin Poirier Hates Michael Chandler. I don't think it's too hard to imagine why, because as I've said, I can't really stand Michael Chandler. I think his next fight should be in the GFL. He should be drafted into the GFL this weekend, but that's just my opinion. Let's check out this video from GeeKay. I'll react throughout. And at the end, ladies and gents.
After pulling out of his fight against Islam Makhachev, Arman Tsarukyan has been searching for a new opponent to get back in the title picture. And Michael Chandler, seeing an opportunity for a bounce back himself, threw his hat in the ring, which was a surprise to nobody, as Chandler is one of the most game or opportunistic fighters, depending on your perspective. And even less surprisingly, Dustin Poirier decided to give his 2 cents, as he always does whenever Chandler's name comes up in the trending news, tweeting out a simple 2-word statement: shut up. Now, being that this is far from the first time that he engaged with Michael Chandler on Twitter or in the media in general, since Chandler came over to the UFC from Bellator in 2021, over the years it's become abundantly clear that Poirier simply hates Michael Chandler.
Man, Michael Chandler. Check your record, buddy.
Yes.
That last L 2 years ago, it's the kid right here.
And in this video, I'm going to dive into that by giving you a history of their beef, as well as a full breakdown of where the disdain ultimately stems from. Now, believe it or not, the two actually started off on good terms, with Dustin being very complimentary towards Chandler and his fighting style.
If you ask anyone who knows me or anyone who's heard me speak about Mike, I've always, I've been watching the guy fight for a long time. He's fought a lot of great guys. I've always had praise for him. He's done some great things.
Our first interaction, me and you,
was at a Bellator event,
dude?
and it was great. It was great.
Yeah, I know.
But after he signed the contract with the UFC, the initial pleasantries from Dustin soon turned into annoyance at what he perceived to be Chandler's entitlement. And to be fair, he wasn't the only one. Most of the fighters in the lightweight division felt like Chandler was being a little too arrogant and was being shown a little too much favoritism from the UFC brass, considering he was the new guy. And that wasn't without merit, because before Michael Chandler even had a chance to fight under the UFC umbrella once, he was already tapped as a replacement in a title fight between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Justin Gaethje. But ultimately, he made his debut at UFC 257, which incidentally was the pay-per-view headlined by Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. And to the dismay of the lightweight division, the reception he received from the UFC fans was a very positive one. He finished Hooker in the second round by strikes, earning a Performance of the Night bonus, and his aggressive kill-or-be-killed fighting style was an instant hit. And when he got on the microphone afterwards, he called out Conor McGregor and the recently retired Khabib Nurmagomedov, still hoping to entice him to come back to the company. Now, in my opinion, Dustin took a lot of offense to his post-fight interview, and not necessarily for the reasons that he would later claim. The fact that Chandler called out Conor and not him seemed like an assumption that McGregor would beat him in the main event, which would explain the dismissive answer that Poirier would give the media later that night after they suggested Chandler as a possible future opponent.
He should fight Charles Oliveira or something. Let Chandler and Charles Oliveira go at it. That doesn't really interest me at this point.
And they did.
I'm going to sell hot sauce if that's the case.
And the reason why I believe that this was a direct response to being overlooked in Chandler's post-fight interview is because later on, both would claim that they generally had very pleasant and friendly interactions with one another at this event before the fights went on.
The guy that talked to you and Abu Dhabi in the stands, you and I in the stands before weigh-ins, we had all of that. And then that Dustin Poirier went on record on the microphone after the fight and said, if the UFC wants me to fight Michael Chandler, I'd just as soon go sell hot sauce.
Seemingly taking Dustin's advice to heart, Chandler would go on to immediately face Charles Oliveira for a lightweight championship. And weirdly enough, considering he refused to fight him, Dustin would throw another public shot, tweeting out "Fool's Gold" and tagging both Oliveira and Chandler. And that probably has something to do with the fact that when he said that Michael Chandler should fight Charles Oliveira, he didn't expect the UFC to put the lightweight title on the line, given him a shot to become champion in only his second fight. His whole angle seemed to be that Chandler hasn't yet proven himself enough to deserve any real opportunities.
To come in and beat a guy I just beat and get a title shot, dude, I've been in, what is this, 27, 28 fights in the UFC, trying everything, fighting the toughest of the toughest guys to to get my hands on gold.
So if he suddenly became champion, not only would he leapfrog Dustin in relevance within the division, Dustin would then be forced to go against his own word and chase him, as that would instantly become the most important fight at lightweight. But regardless, that never came to fruition, as Chandler ended up losing, and then moved on to fighting Justin Gaethje, who was also not a fan of his, probably for similar reasons to Dustin, but articulated a bit differently.
I have no reason not to like you, but something about your face just makes you want to.
And I can't change that.
It's
Listen,
not that
listen.
bad, Justin.
My face isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, Justin.
His face, Justin.
Okay.
His face, Gaethje.
The face.
Yeah.
Just his face makes you want to punch you.
Yeah, the little smirk.
After losing the decision to Gaethje, Chandler bounced back with a vicious front kick KO of Tony Ferguson. And it was at this point that Dustin began to express interest in fighting Chandler. But now the tables had turned, feeling bitter from the way that he was treated in the past, Chandler was the one that was reluctant to give Dustin the opportunity.
I think he's a great dude. I think I like him for the sport, but I also think I was completely disregarded and pushed aside whenever I came into the organization. He completely disregarded me, completely, acted as though I didn't deserve to be where I was. And so maybe it's a little bit more of a personal issue, but I also don't think is Dustin a draw? I guess he is the number 2 guy, the ranked number 2 now. But he's kind of just stayed at number 2, and he's, I don't know how active he's going to be. But I did see that he tweeted that I was saying everybody else's name but his, as if I was, maybe didn't want to fight him because of, technical reasons or whatnot. But that was more just, I forgot about him, to be honest with you. So hats off to him for what he's done in his career, and I respect the heck out of him. He makes some great hot sauce. But as of right now, I don't really have a desire to fight him.
And once again, this really offended Dustin, and the two got into a very heated exchange in the crowd at UFC 276.
So apparently Dustin Poirier's got a problem with me. I'm not quite sure what it is.
This nigga's
but I ain't fighting Dustin next.
Eventually, Chandler conceded, and an official fight between the two was set
Talk
for
all that
UFC
shit. I don't know what his
281. And
problem
during the
is with
pre-fight
me.
media circuit, Dustin was asked point blank to give a specific reason for why he disliked Michael Chandler. And while he didn't flat out say it, he seemed to imply that he felt that Michael Chandler was fake, the type of guy to be nice and complimentary to his face, but completely different when he wasn't around.
This is just it. The way he answered that question is not who he was a few interviews ago with Errol Houani, or it's not who he was when the mic's in front of him in the Octagon. He was a different guy whenever we sat next to each other in Abu Dhabi and spoke. It's just that's what it is.
As the fight date was getting closer and closer, the relationship between the two seemed to be getting better and better, as the feelings were now out on the table and they seemed to be getting past it. But then the actual fight happened. It was an absolutely grueling war, with both getting rocked multiple times, with Dustin Poirier ultimately getting a clutch rear naked choke in round 3. But when the dust settled, Dustin didn't seem that happy with Chandler, and he let him know right then and there in the Octagon, calling him dirty, accusing him of fish hooking his mouth in order to try to secure a submission, hitting him in the back of the head, and blowing his bloody, broken nose directly on his face.
I said, this is my house, that's it. And I told him he's a dirty motherfucker too, for putting his fingers in my mouth and blowing his nose, and
Yes, his mouth was open and my hand went inside of there and was on his mouthpiece. He bit down. I was trying to pull it out. It wasn't as though I was trying to pull it out and he was biting it and I couldn't get it out. It was more just the angle. You're getting pushed up against the cage. It's just
when you were on top, the camera kind of panned in. It looked like you blew your nose on him with all the blood. Is that what happened?
I gotta rock it up my nose right now, trying to keep it stopping from bleeding. It was, if I wanted to breathe, that blood needed to come out. It wasn't a malicious weird thing, but it was definitely like, hey man, sorry you're down there, but I didn't create gravity.
It was definitely intentional.
Isaiah, what have you?
He mentioned though with the snot in the nose, like that was just gravity, and he needed to breathe, and it's just like, sorry about that, man. That's just gravity.
It's just fighting, you know.
Yeah.
It's just fighting.
In my personal opinion, every single one of Dustin's claims was true. Chandler fought extremely dirty, and that probably
Super
solidified Dustin's opinion of him being fake. Because him denying that he cheated, even though it was all caught on camera, just made it seem like he was very concerned with preserving a certain type of image, even though it wasn't true to who he actually was. At least not inside of the Octagon, because anybody that's familiar with Michael Chandler will tell you that the man can be very grimy when he fights. Instead of mending their relationship, this fight caused a lot of bitterness between the two, and Dustin would continue to periodically send out little pot shots on Twitter, which Chandler would now respond to. But eventually their paths went in very different directions. Chandler sat out for 2 years, hoping and ultimately failing to secure a fight against Conor McGregor, while Poirier fought Justin Gaethje, Benoit Saint Denis, and Islam Makhachev. But after his loss to Makhachev, when Poirier briefly contemplated retirement, quickly changing his mind, Chandler just couldn't resist taking a shot on Twitter, tweeting out, "No thanks, retire man, we good." This prompted Poirier to go off on him again, basically reiterating his original feelings that Chandler wasn't one of them, therefore he had no say of what goes on in the lightweight division.
Come on, dude. Look, no thanks, retire, we good. Who the f is we? You just got here, buddy. You're not one of us. You're not we. I've been here, you know?
Right.
Come on, dude.
That annoyed you?
We are good. Who's we? You know, welcome to the UFC, dude. You got one win in the UFC.
That pissed you off?
Yeah, bro, he's not one of us. You know, I've been cutting my teeth in the UFC since January of 2011 or 2010, you know? He just got here. Who's we? He's speaking for the lightweight division?
Right.
Dude, Muscle McMike needs to chill.
Now, as you can see, the two have a pretty extended history, but in my opinion, this is a very one-sided affair. If Dustin wanted to bury the hatchet tomorrow, Chandler would probably be ecstatic to do so. I think Chandler's main gripe with Dustin is that he feels like Dustin doesn't respect him at all and looks at him as an annoying pest. And to be fair, he's 100% correct. Dustin is clearly resentful of the opportunities that Chandler has been given and feels like his record doesn't justify his pay or his status within the company. He's had to claw and fight for every bit of success that he's achieved in the UFC, and Chandler just kind of immediately got on Dana White's good side, which I guess in his eyes makes him a teacher's pet. And in some ways he's right. Chandler is definitely a company guy through and through, but he does disregard the fact that he was almost a 30-fight veteran by the time he got into the UFC. But I could see why it would be annoying to watch somebody that loses constantly be front and center whenever the UFC has anything significant going on in the lightweight division, begging them to pick him. He does come across as he's trying a little bit too hard at times, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's just a personality clash, and even if these two were working in an office together, they would probably end up on bad terms. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like the video if you liked it, and if you want to see more videos like—
Shout out to GeeKay for the dope video. No surprises there. Michael Chandler is dirty. I've stated that here many times. I do not rocks with Michael Chandler. He's dirty. He's dirty. Maybe you guys disagree with me and GeeKay here. The points that GeeKay made here, that Michael Chandler is dirty. He's clearly dirty. He does these things in all his fights. He's just the dirtiest fighter. He was fighting dirty, punching Charles Oliveira in the back of the head repeatedly in his last fight. It was disgusting, man. Like 15 punches to the back of the head. He's just the dirtiest fighter I've ever seen. But let me know in the comments, am I missing something? All right. Do you guys disagree? Do you think, no, Chandler's a great guy, you're just not seeing it? Is that what's happening? Let me know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you guys once again for being here. Thank you guys for being here. And I will see you when I see you. I'll holla.